The intergalactic annals list the attempted invasion of Earth as a cosmic joke, with a footnote marking every known species as having at one point or another tried to take over the blue marble. This footnote covers over 2,400 galactic cycles. Yet here's the kicker. Humanity, in all those thousands of cycles, has never been conquered. Not for lack of trying, mind you. Every sentient rock dweller, goo monster, cybernetic overlord, you name it. They've all had a go. The issue lies within a rather simple fact. Humans are absolutely crazy when cornered and will defend squishy, sugar-laden pastries with a ferocity that should be reserved for planetary annihilation weapons. That's right, donuts. I'm talking glazed, jelly-filled, sprinkled, powdered, all the glorious forms. Who am I? Well, it doesn't really matter. I'm just some nobody alien assistant to donut diplomats from beyond the stars. More on that later. Anyways, it turns out that Earth has the perfect environment somewhere on the North American continent to produce a flour, milk, and egg combination that puts the rest of the galaxy in a frothing frenzy. The result is a fried dough confection that can induce a near religious fervor in any species not native to Earth. Take Commander Jalis of the Krellian cluster, for example. Jalis is a highly respected warlord who sent chills down the spines of anyone who'd ever met him. He's 6 meters of hardened warrior wrapped in chitinous armor, acid saliva dripping from his mandibles, with eyes that have witnessed the burning of 1,000 suns. Now Jalis loves donuts. He loves them so much that he planned a decade-long, precisely executed scheme to conquer Earth and secure the entire donut supply chain for his people. It was pure genius. Subversion, sabotage, tactical strikes. The day his forces finally touched down outside Kansas City, Jalis stood ready to bathe in the sweet, sweet scent of victory. What he wasn't ready for was Bob, who led a neighborhood watch full of pissed-off humans. Bob was 5'6", balding, slightly overweight, and worked in accounting for the local donut factory. Bob also loved those donuts almost as much as Jalis. Now, Bob didn't have the same military training, but what Bob did have was a squirrel gun, a Costco-sized bag of powdered sugar, and a whole lot of pent-up rage from his Tuesday morning commute. Jalis didn't even have time to scream before Bob went full-on Rambo from the bushes, turning the Krellian warlord into what can only be described as a 6-meter-tall powdered sugar sculpture. Apparently, acid saliva doesn't react well to a face full of pure sucrose. The legendary brutal battle of Bob and the neighborhood watch from Dandelion Lane wasn't an isolated incident. The mere threat of donut deprivation seemed to turn regular humans into a wild horde the galaxy just couldn't handle. It's a little-known fact that the first interspecies peace talks were held at Sue's Donut Diner on the edge of Michigan, not in some grand diplomatic hall. Every species desperate for a fix sent representatives. At this point, they couldn't handle the war of attrition Earth had become. I was there that day, attached to the diplomatic staff. The whole place smelled of sugar, stale coffee, and a hint of impending galactic doom, or, as humans call it, Monday morning. You could cut the tension with a plastic spork. Admiral Slither Scale of the Naga conglomerate, the less said about the fact snakes have a sweet tooth, the better, sat tensely across from Grand Processor 101010 of the Cyber Collective. Usually these two would be plotting each other's destruction, but here they were, bound by a shared craving that transcended their mutual hatred. In the corner, Queen Thrum Thrum of the insectoid hive buzzed furiously. And yep, you guessed it, she wasn't here by choice. Apparently, Earth's donut-fueled defense forces had accidentally wiped out 5 of her colonies. She wanted war. Humans being humans took it all in stride. Frank, the owner of Sue's Donut Diner, shuffled around refilling mugs. Now listen up. Frank growled, his voice thick with a lifetime of breakfast grease and Midwestern common sense. We ain't in the business of conquering none of you donut-hungry freaks. We just want to make donuts and be left alone. With that, he plopped a fresh box of glazed in the center of the donut hole-shaped table specifically built for these summits. Immediately, the tension broke. The Naga Admiral's forked tongue flickered. Grand Processor 101010 began a rapid series of calculations while Queen Thrum Thrum twitched her antennae. With a synchronized lunge usually reserved for battlefield domination, they all descended on the donuts. A donut free-for-all was not exactly diplomatic protocol, but the result was astounding. Slitherscale, his scales gleaming with sugary residue, hissed a truce proposal before demanding a to-go box. Queen Thrum Thrum's buzzing quieted, replaced by what could only be described as contented munching. The Grand Processor's circuits went haywire for a solid minute, apparently resulting in an internal upgrade that demanded sprinkles. It was absolutely bonkers. But somehow, within all that chaos, there was peace. Frank wasn't having any of the newfound donut-induced harmony. He clapped his floury hands once, the resulting dust cloud choking out the last vestige of Queen Thrum Thrum's happy chirps. All right, that's enough of that, he grumbled with the authority only a lifetime of dealing with sugar-crazed customers could give him. Here's the deal. We're gonna share, 'cause we ain't monsters. A ripple of nervous energy went through the aliens. Sharing went against every ounce of their hoarding instincts. But, Frank continued, raising a finger, there's gonna be rules. Turns out, Frank's no-nonsense Midwestern wisdom was Earth's greatest secret weapon. With the threat of a donut embargo lingering overhead, every alien delegation agreed to his terms. The Galactic Donut Accord was a masterpiece of interspecies compromise. Let me break it down for you. The Donut Trade Authority, DTA. Nobody was allowed to just waltz into Earth cities and start raiding factories. Instead, a complex system of donut bartering emerged, with each species offering up unique resources in exchange for their share. The Cyber Collective provided tech updates Earth hadn't even dreamed of, and the Naga offered, well, space snake venom that apparently made for a killer fertilizer. The Great Donut Bake-Off. Once every 10 cycles, Earth would host an epic baking competition. Each species would send their finest pastry chefs. The winner would get extra bragging rights and preferential trade deals with Frank's connections. Let's just say the Xylordian Empire's six-eye pastry artists were pretty hard to beat, until Alice from Nebraska unveiled her Death by Chocolate and Bacon masterpiece. Universal Anti-Donut Warfare Act. Simply put, no more trying to invade Earth for its delicious treats. Anyone caught violating this rule faced the most horrifying consequence the galaxy could come up with: being forced to eat exclusively gluten-free, vegan, healthy donuts for eternity. It sent chills down the exoskeleton of even the most hardened warrior. The galaxy wasn't perfect, of course. Donut-related skirmishes still cropped up from time to time, mostly fueled by those rogue agents who just couldn't resist the siren call of a freshly glazed cruller. But, by and large, a fragile peace reigned under the soft scent of vanilla and deep-fried dough. As for those intergalactic annals, they finally revised their entry. Earth wasn't an anomaly anymore, but rather the epicenter of the most unexpected galactic superpower, the almighty donut. Life on Earth continued in its new donut-centric normal. Sure, there were a few hiccups. The time a delegation of energy beings decided a glazed twist looked suspiciously like a power source, or the incident where a particularly jittery insectoid scout mistook sprinkle-covered donuts for a new species of eggs. But, by and large, things moved along with a kind of sugar-fueled harmony. Humans, ever the opportunists, saw the potential in this galactic addiction. America, of course, it had to be the Americans, became a booming metropolis of donut factories, not churning out cheap imitations, but the real deal with top secret ingredient mixes the galaxy drooled for. The Midwest was transformed into the galactic breadbasket, with fields of perfectly calibrated wheat waving in the solar breeze. Even Bob, the accidental hero, settled into a surprising role. Turns out, his unhinged, squirrel gun wielding, powdered sugar frenzy war was exactly what the galaxy needed as an example. Bob became head of security for the Galactic Donut Authority. Yes, that's a real thing now. Ensuring every shipment was protected against would-be thieves. And me? Well, let's just say after that first donut summit, I developed a taste for the fried dough goodness. It helped with the diplomatic paperwork and eased those tense interplanetary calls. Besides, if Commander Squishface of the Blobian Fleet was willing to negotiate galactic trade routes based on the availability of fresh crullers, who was I to argue? One quiet Tuesday morning, which were never really quiet after the invasion attempts ceased, I stood on the observation deck of the DTA headquarters, sipping coffee and munching on a maple bacon bar. Below me, the Kansas plains were a sea of golden wheat, dotted with state-of-the-art donut factories, each sending out the sweet smell of galactic cooperation. A blur of green whizzed by, an insectoid courier buzzing off towards some distant corner of the galaxy, probably with a box of limited edition pumpkin spice donuts tucked carefully under its thorax. I smiled. Life in the donut era might be a little absurd, but it sure beat endless war. And hey, the snacks were pretty freaking good. Am I right?